That's easy. If he wants to play there, pay him. We know
if it's
that.
so easy, give it to him so he can make a decision. Now go on.
Number two, what the Spurs did on Sunday night against Denver was an absolute disgrace. If they play Wemby, who didn't play, and they beat the Nuggets, which I think they would have beaten them if he did play, they would have avoided Denver for the postseason. Instead, they didn't play Wemby because he had played the 65th game. They counted that Challenge Cup final, so they didn't play him in the game. And so what happens is the Spurs, if they beat Portland, they're wrapped up with Denver in the second round. If they had beaten Denver at home last Sunday night, last game of the year, NBC at 8:30, the Nuggets dropped to the 4-5, and they play the winner of Lakers-Rockets down there. So now they are forced to play Jokic when he beats the Timberwolves. They won 14 in a row. They won a championship a few years ago. He's the best player in the league, and not even an issue. And you suddenly got Murray. You had a chance to knock them out of there, not to have to worry about them in round 2 of the postseason. Now, if you're the Spurs, because you decide to give Wemby the day off when he has a week off before the playoffs begin, now you're going to have to beat the Nuggets and the Thunder back-to-back to get to a final. That was mind-boggling to me. You got a chance to knock Denver out of the 3-hole, and you don't got to play them in round 2, and you let Wemby sit at 22 years of age? That is asinine. Look at the playoff structure. Say to yourself, would I rather play Denver or the banged-up Lakers in round 2? You'd rather play the Lakers if they get by Houston. Mind-bogglingly stupid by the Spur organization. That is number 2. What are you laughing for, Shay?
You're right. You're right. You're just so psychotic, but you're right. You're right. Go ahead, Stephen A.
I don't view it that way. I don't view it that way. First of all, Wemby had an injury. The not playing him bought an additional 7 to 8 days for him to heal up for the playoffs. That's number one. And number two, I can't believe the hypocrisy of Mad Dog Russo. This is not a good day for him. San Antonio Spurs have the attitude. We know who the hell we are. We took out the reigning defending NBA champion in 4 to 5 meetings. We beat them. And we'll take out Denver too. We don't give a damn. We don't care who we're going up against. As long as we're healthy and ready to go, we don't give a damn about who might be waiting for us in round 2 or round 3. We'll take them. Doggy, the doggy that I once knew and loved, the doggy that I once revered, would love this stuff. He would be like, hey, way to be courageous. You know, you confident in who you are. We don't give a damn. Let's go. But instead, you're maligning them for it now. You have changed. You have gotten softer. I don't know what the hell is wrong with you today, but it is what it is.
Game 6 in Denver when they're down 3-2. You tell me in the second round if you want to place Jokic.
They ain't going to be down 3-2. They ain't going to be down 3-2.
All right, number 3. Number three. Listen, this is ridiculous of what the NBA did. And I know they did it for the money. They got a fortune. They blew off all their local carriers who carry all these regular season games. You know, the first 7 games.
Mad Dog Chris Russo just lost his mind on First Take. And honestly, he's got a point. The San Antonio Spurs set Victor Wembanyama on Sunday night against Denver. And Mad Dog called it an absolute disgrace. He said it was mind-bogglingly stupid. Let me break down why he's so angry and whether Stephen A. Smith has a valid counterargument. First, the context. The Spurs played the Nuggets in the final game of the regular season. If San Antonio wins, Denver drops to the 4 or 5 seed. That means the Spurs would avoid playing the Nuggets until the Western Conference Finals. They would face a much easier path. Instead, they sat Wembanyama. They lost. And now, if the Spurs beat Portland in the play-in, they are locked into a second-round matchup with Denver. A Denver team that has won 14 straight games. A Denver team that won a championship a few years ago. A Denver team led by Nikola Jokic, the best player in the league. And Jamal Murray is back and playing well. So instead of facing the banged-up Lakers in round 2, the Spurs now have to beat Denver and Oklahoma City back-to-back just to get to the finals. Mad Dog's argument is simple. Wembanyama had already played his 65th game. He was eligible for awards. He had a week off before the playoffs. Why not play him in the most important game of the regular season? Why not take the chance to knock Denver out of the 3-hole? Mad Dog said, "You had a chance to knock them out of there, not have to worry about them in round T." Whoa. That is asinine. Look at the playoff structure. Would I rather play Denver or the banged-up Lakers in round 2? You'd rather play the Lakers. Now, Stephen A. fired back. He said Wembanyama had an injury. Not playing him bought an additional 7 to 8 days for him to heal up for the playoffs. And then Stephen A. accused Mad Dog of hypocrisy. He said the old Mad Dog would love the Spurs attitude. The attitude that says, "We don't care who we play. We'll take anybody. We beat the defending champs 4 or 5 times this season. We'll beat them again." Stephen A. said, "Doggy, the doggy that I once knew and loved, the doggy that I once revered, would love this stuff. He would be like, 'Hey, way to be courageous. You're confident in who you are. We don't give a damn. Let's go.' But instead, you're maligning them for it now. You have changed. You have gotten softer." But Mad Dog wasn't having it. He shot back, Game 6 in Denver when they're down 3-2 in the second round. You tell me if you want to face Jokic then. Stephen A. interrupted. They ain't going to be down 3-2. But Mad Dog's point stands. Why make your path harder than it needs to be? Why choose to play the best player in the world in a 7-game series when you could avoid him until the conference finals? That's not courage. That's bad strategy. Let me give you my take on this. I understand both sides. Stephen A. is right that the Spurs have beaten Denver this season. They have confidence. And resting Wembanyama for a week before the playoffs is valuable. He's 22 years old, but is also 7 feet 5 inches and plays a physically demanding style. Giving him extra rest is not crazy. But Mad Dog is also right. The Spurs had a chance to control their own destiny. They could have chosen their path. Instead, they left it to chance. And now they might have to face the Nuggets and the Thunder just to get to the finals. That's a brutal road. Why make it harder? Why not take the easier path when it's offered to you? The answer might be that the Spurs genuinely don't care. They believe they can beat anybody. And if you're going to win a championship, you eventually have to beat the best teams anyway. So why avoid Denver? You'll have to face them sooner or later. Might as well be sooner. But here's the problem with that logic. The playoffs are about matchups. They're about health. They're about momentum. The Lakers are banged up. They're without Luka Doncic and Austin Reeves. They're a much easier opponent than a fully healthy Nuggets team led by a 2-time MVP who is playing the best basketball of his career. Avoiding Denver in the second round would have given the Spurs a much clearer path to the conference finals. And once you're in the conference finals, anything can happen. Mad Dog also went off on 2 other topics. He went off on Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers. He said the Steelers knew what they were getting into when they made a deal with Rodgers. He takes forever to decide. He goes to Oregon, hangs out in a cave, and wakes up around the draft to tell you if he's playing. That's who he is. If you're the Steelers, deal with it. Stephen A. actually agreed but then called Mad Dog's take weak and one of the worst takes he's ever had. He said it's an indictment against the Steelers for going the geriatric route with a soon-to-be 43-year-old quarterback. And finally, Mad Dog went off on the NBA putting the first 7 games of the postseason on Prime Video. He said it's ridiculous. You got to find where the games are. You got to fool around with your remote. Technical difficulties almost made him miss the finish of the Charlotte game. He said the last time we had technical difficulties in a huge game was 1958 when the Giants and Colts played the championship game at Yankee Stadium. That's how rare this is. And is furious that local broadcasters like Clyde Frazier in New York don't get to call the first round. After covering the Knicks for 6 months in January, they get pushed aside for streaming. He called it a joke. Stephen A. counted that 170 million people watched regular season games this year. It's an 86% jump from last year. So the NBA will argue that it's working for them. But Mad Dog doesn't care. He's a fan. He wants to watch the games without jumping through hoops. All right, let me wrap this up with some questions for you. Drop your takes in the comments. 1. Should the Spurs have played Wembanyama against Denver to avoid the Nuggets? In round 2, or was resting him the right call? 2. Is Mad Dog right that the Spurs' decision was mind-bogglingly stupid? Or is Stephen A. right that they just don't care who they play? 3. Are you annoyed that the first round of the NBA playoffs is on Prime Video instead of regular TV? 4. Should the Steelers move on from Aaron Rodgers or wait for his decision? I'll read the best comments in the next video. Smash like if you agree with Mad Dog about the Spurs. Hit subscribe if you think resting Wembanyama was the right call. And comment your Spurs Nuggets series prediction right now. Let's go.